Hi, I'm Diana Withen, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the biodiversity of Southwest Virginia. So I'm not sure if you've ever wondered why we have such amazing fall foliage here in Southwest Virginia, but it has a lot to do with the fact that we have so many different species of trees. And each one of these species is going to turn its own specific color in the fall. For instance, your tulip poplars, witch hazel, and sugar maples will probably turn some shade of yellow. And a few of your oaks might turn a reddish brown, and some of the other oaks might turn more of a golden brown. Some trees, like your sweet gum and sourwoods, are probably going to turn some shades of red. And then you have a few trees like the dogwoods and sassafras that each individual leaf on those trees may have all three colors, red, orange, and yellow. So together, all of these trees make up a very rich and wonderful viewscape for us here in Southwest Virginia in the fall. So having such a great variety of trees, or could be a variety of fish or salamanders or other life forms, is called biodiversity. Bio means life and diversity means differences. And some areas have more biodiversity, like us, and some, like a desert, would have less biodiversity. But tree diversity can be seen not only in the colors that they turn in the fall, but also by the shape of their leaves or by the type of seeds that they have. For instance, these are all oak tree leaves, but they're each a different species of oak. They have unique leaves and unique seed types because they have adapted to different types of environments. The environment may be a drier soil or a wetter soil, a colder environment or a warmer environment, but all of these oak trees that these leaves came from have descended from an ancestral oak that lived maybe 20 to 30 million years ago. And they've adapted over time. Today, there's around 600 species of oaks worldwide, and probably, half a dozen to a dozen live here in Southwest Virginia. The Nature Conservancy has created this map here about biodiversity hot spots. And what that means is any place you see where there is a lot of red means that, number one, there's a lot of different species living in this area here in Southwest Virginia, but also that some of these species are at risk. So it's a hot spot because it's an area that we need to pay attention to and try to protect. So today we're going to learn a little bit about why there is so much diversity here in Southwest Virginia. The Appalachian Mountains are a long mountain range here, going from Alabama up into Canada, and are anywhere from 100 to 300 miles wide. This is also the oldest mountain range in North America, and they started forming over 450 million years ago with upheavals and eruptions. A lot's gone on in that time, and about 350 million years ago, the area was covered with forest that finally would die and fall down, and a lot of these ancient forests got turned into the coal beds that we have here today. This happened in the Carboniferous period. And then in the Permian period, say around 250 million years ago, we had more mountain formation. We had some folding of our mountains. And of course, there's erosion going on all this time. So these mountains originally would have been as tall as the Rockies, but have eroded away, mostly due to water. I was going to show you this video here, which is going to show you why our mountains got folded. And if you pay attention to the blue, which is going to be North America, and the yellow, which is Africa, you can see that right about here, about 300 million years ago, the North American and the African continents were smashing together, and that is going to just push up the Appalachian mountain range. And so when these mountains were pushed up and folded, they created all kinds of little nooks and crannies. This is looking at our area with, this is the Appalachian Plateau with lots of little hollers in here and streams, and the valley and ridge. But in all of these little areas, there's going to be unique habitats created, little kind of micro habitats where they have they're going to have different temperatures, different temperatures at the top of the mountain, then from the bottom of the mountain, and the north side of the mountain versus the south side of the mountain. And they'll have drier soils at the top and wetter soils at the bottom. So this is going to lead to lots of different habitats, and that diversity of habitats is going to help to lead to a diversity of species. And if I keep using the word species, but basically you have, say, a group of insects here that can interbreed and have healthy fertile offspring. If this population is divided by a river or a mountain, something that they can't cross over, the two different groups of insects may eventually stop being attracted to each other or reproduce at different times. And so that when that happens and they no longer will breed together, they're considered to be two distinct species. And even if they came back together later on, they wouldn't be able to interbreed with each other. So that now you have two species from one. So all of these many unique ecosystems in our mountains is going to lead to having lots and lots of diversities. Oops, went the wrong way. Another reason that we have a lot of species is because we have a lot of water. Norton, I think, is the wettest town in Virginia. At like 48 inches of rain a year on average, and life does like water. So that's going to help to contribute to having so many life forms here. Another thing that's going to contribute to having a lot of life here is that we have never been glaciated here in Southwest Virginia. The northern Appalachians will be covered with ice and glaciers multiple times, but they don't ever reach down as far as Southwest Virginia. So you can see these are ice sheets coming down, and each time they would come down, they would wipe out all the life underneath them. But the Southwest Virginia is going to continue to have life living there for hundreds of millions of years. And over that time, it's changing and adapting to different climates and producing lots of species. So we do have lots of peaks in our area. We have Mount Mitchell here that even that one mountain can have different climates from the top to the bottom. It's going to be colder and warmer and drier from the top and wetter at the bottom, or even the different sides of the mountains can be, one can be sunnier and one can be shadier. The Clinch River is a famous river because of its species diversity. Not only do we have rivers, but we also have marshes, and we have really cold, fast-moving streams, as well as slower-moving rivers and lakes. But these rivers are going to lead to a rich diversity of fish and freshwater mussels, crayfish, salamanders, aquatic insects. We also have some unique territory because we have a lot of limestone in our area. And this is a picture of the Omega Cave, which is in our area. couple more pictures. It's a giant cave system that's being explored by professional spelunkers. But in this cave system, we have specific organisms that have adapted to live there. Some of these organisms have no pigmentation since they don't need any protection from sunlight. Others are going to be blind because they don't longer have any use for their eyes. So if we go through and look at first plants, and then we'll look at animals, we'll talk about some of the different types of things that we have here. There's over 2,000 species of plants that live here. We also have some of the greatest remaining old growth forests in the eastern United States, which is going to be important for certain specific species of organisms that only want to live in old growth forests. Here are our mosses, and mosses are ancient plants. They can only get to be just an inch or two big because they're going to stay close to the soil for water. They have no vascular system, but we probably don't even know all the mosses that we have in our area. People are studying them, but there's probably going to be hundreds of species of mosses. Ferns are bigger plants. We have maidenhair ferns and bigger cinnamon ferns, and ferns also, there's going to probably be a couple hundred different species of ferns. Conifers, we have several species of these, including hemlocks, which are shown here. We have red spruce and Fraser fir and several different types of pine trees. These are going to have their seeds in their cones, hence the name conifers. But one thing we're known for are our deciduous trees and shrubs. We have 150 different species of trees in the Appalachian Mountains. And these deciduous trees, not only do they lose their leaves in the fall, but they also are going to produce flowers. And probably everybody recognizes this flower here, which is our state flower and our state tree, the dogwood. But sometimes you might not see some of the flowers because they're so high up. But this is from a tulip poplar, and you'll sometimes find these on the ground. These, sometimes you won't notice the flowers on the trees because they're small. This is the flower from a maple tree. Flame azaleas are found on the sides of High Knob, as well as rhododendron and mountain laurel. A lot of people love the lady slippers. We have lots of different species of wildflowers. Ginseng, of course, is a popular plant here, and there are rules about picking the ginseng. It's being over harvested right now, so we have to be careful to harvest this plant correctly, waiting for it to be old enough that it's been able to reproduce. This is kind of an unusual plant here, the pitcher plant. It lives in swampy areas where there's the soil has had the nutrients leached out of it from the water flow. So these plants have adapted to living in low nutrient soil because they are able to trap bugs. Bugs crawl down these tubes, get stuck on these little sticky hairs, and then the plant will basically digest them and take the nitrogen from the insects. If we look at the different kinds of animals, we're going to start out first with the invertebrates, and then we'll get to the vertebrates, like this are the eastern bluebird. So your invertebrates, there's thousands of species of these. We have several different kinds of crayfish. They come in different colors. Of course, we're going to have lots of different insects like the Luna moth. We've got lots of several species of damselflies, as well as dragonflies. This is a hummingbird moth. Of course, your praying mantis. This is my favorite spider here, the orb spider, which is, there's about 200 species of spiders in our area. And most of them are not going to be poisonous, just like most of our snakes aren't poisonous. So this is a Hercules beetle here. They can get it like about the size of your thumb. We've got millipedes, bumblebees, as well as other types of bees. And we've got about, I think, 200 different species of snails. Oh, sorry, 300 species of terrestrial snails. This is the second most diverse population in the United States. Freshwater mussels, we have 80 species of these, and this is the most diverse population in the world of freshwater mussels. And a lot of people have probably never seen a freshwater mussel. This is part of it sticking out of the riverbed. They are animals that will spend their entire life usually in one spot, and they are really good at filtering water. We'll look at some pictures here in just a minute, but they filter about a gallon an hour. They can live up to 60 years old, and they can get as big as dinner plates. But there are several different species. So this is a picture looking at sort of the diversity of some different types of freshwater mussels here. Put this graph in here because you can see here is the, we've got 81 species of freshwater mussels in the Upper Tennessee. The Upper Tennessee River is in Southwest Virginia. It includes the Clinch River, the Powell, and the Holston. Those three rivers come together in Southwest Virginia and make up the Upper Tennessee River. And if you look here, there's only 800 species worldwide. So we have 1/10 of all of the freshwater mussel species in Southwest Virginia. And look over here at Europe. Europe's lost most of their freshwater mussels. They only had 12 species in all of the European rivers put together. And you might say, well, what's such a big deal about freshwater mussels? Well, mussels are, early on, were eaten by the Native Americans, and there's still a lot of animals that use them for a food source. Later on, they were used for making buttons out of. If you've ever seen those little pearly type buttons. Today we use plastic. So if we look here at this pictures here, that we have 2 tanks here full of muddy water. One of them has mussels and one of them doesn't. The one that has mussels, after a few hours, will start to clean out the water, and a few more hours and the water is crystal clear, because these guys are such good filter. They eat from filtering the water, and what they'll do with the dirt is they'll like kind of package it up and spit the dirt out right next to them. So these guys actually save us a lot of money because we don't have to filter the water as much. So if you've got a good bed of mussels, they're going to do a lot of the work for us in keeping the water clean. But they are highly sensitive to pollution and sedimentation. If you dump tons of dirt on top of them, they're going to smother. So you got to keep your rivers healthy. If you want to look at vertebrates, these are animals with backbones. We have around 700 species in our area, and they've just been diversifying for hundreds of millions of years, just like the plants have and the invertebrates have. Starting with fish here, some of the fish that you may recognize are the brook trout. Here we have a game fish, the smallmouth bass. But what we're really famous for are these darters. And darters are only going to be a few inches big. And some of these darters are actually work to help the mussels spread their babies farther. These are several different types of darter fish, tangerine darter, the candy darter. And you know, a lot of times when we drive past a river, we don't realize how much life there is in that river. But if you can put on a pair of goggles and get down there and look, you'll see a lot of different things. We're also very famous for our salamanders. There's 50 species of salamanders in our area. This one here is the cave salamander, and it, just like it sounds, it's going to live in or near caves and eat the insects and stuff that are in the caves. This is one that probably a lot of people have seen, the red spotted newt. When it's an adult in the water, it's like usually this color, and it spends most of its life in the water. It will come out of the water when it's basically a teenager and travel and look around for a different place to live, and then it's going to usually be bright orange. Lots of different kinds of frogs. Another salamander that we're really famous for is the Hellbender. This one gets really big. It's the second biggest amphibian in the world. The biggest one is over in China. The Hellbender loves to eat crayfish. You can see crayfish here hanging out of its mouth. And they don't hurt people, but you can hurt them, so it's best just to leave them alone. They like to stay in the rivers. They breathe through their skin. That's why they have such wrinkly skin, so they have more surface area for taking in oxygen. Reptiles, we have 60 species of reptiles. So we have 20 species of turtles and 9 lizards and 33 snakes. These are a few of our turtles here. The snapping turtle here can get really, really big. The box turtle here, probably everybody's seen a box turtle trying to cross the road. And one thing about box turtles and turtles in general is you want to try to leave them alone. Kind of don't pick them up and take them home, because they have their own territory, and it may end up dying trying to get back to its original territory. So you want to, if it's crossing the road, just pick it up and move it to the side it wants to go to and let it go on its merry little way. This is the bog turtle. It's a small turtle. It is an endangered turtle, so we shouldn't be messing with them at all. These are some of our snakes. The timber rattlesnake can be dark colors like this one here on the left, or it can also go kind of a golden yellowish color. Copperheads here. We have most of our snakes. These are our 2 poisonous snakes, but the majority of snakes that live here are not poisonous. This is a legless lizard, and this is a skink, a broad-headed skink. Birds, we have lots of different types of birds, many different songbirds, waterfowl. Mammals, we have 5 different species of squirrels. This one's a flying squirrel. We have lots of different kinds of shrews. These guys have long noses and kind of short tails compared to mice. Possums, this is our only marsupial. They keep their babies in a pouch. We're also well known for our bat species. These guys are all insectivores, so they're out all night long, keeping the bug population down. Of course, we've got black bears, and coyotes have moved in since the wolves have been wiped out. These are some animals that are what we consider to be extirpated, although the elk have recently been brought back in on trucks from the Rocky Mountains, but the timber wolf no longer lives here. The bison is gone. Mountain lions, the only breeding population that I know of mountain lions is in Florida in the eastern United States. Now there's a lot in the western United States, but they've been all pretty much wiped out by overhunting in our area. Although again, there are elk have been brought back. So this is just a short little tour here about all the species, not all the species, but some of the species that live here. Remember that the greater the diversity of habitats, that means that the greater diversity of species that you'll have. And because we have folded mountains, lots of water, and no glaciation in our area, life has been adapting for millions and millions of years in this one spot that we now live in. So we get to share our home with lots of different animals and plants. And I didn't even touch on the fungus, sorry about that, but we are very lucky to live in such an amazing spot on the planet. Thanks for listening. Bye.